The results came back from my doctor, and he said, your kidneys are functioning at 7%. This told me that if I didn't get a transplant, I would probably die.
Jerry Graver has been active and healthy for most of his life. But in late 2013, he started having some concerning health issues, including a swollen abdomen. His wife Cheryl remembers their onset.
It kept getting worse. He was getting tired, then he was getting nauseated quite a bit, and then he started vomiting, and he just was very weak, and it just really wouldn't stop. He couldn't eat. So I'm like, we need to call a doctor and get you in.
While awaiting the results of a blood test, Jerry endured intense pain and near constant vomiting. A call from their doctor alerted them to how serious his condition was.
They said, you need to get Jerry to the hospital as soon as possible. He's in big danger. When we got to the hospital, they took him to the emergency room right away, and they said his kidneys were failing, and it was just a whirlwind. Things just started happening so fast, and he has to have dialysis, and our brains were just spinning like, what? How could this happen?
Jerry's prostate had swollen shut, blocking urine back up into his kidneys, causing them to fail. He was immediately put on dialysis and soon realized how difficult his life would be.
When I had my chest port, you get lightheaded, you get dizzy, someone has to drive you home, and it takes a day to get over it. And then when I started doing home dialysis with a port in my abdomen, you're supposed to be able to sleep through it and change your fluid out in the morning. It's so painful, you just don't sleep. It hurt.
He would have this machine in his room, and it was noisy at night, and he would just get up in the middle of the night, and he'd just be bent over in excruciating pain, and I would just be crying. I just had to go to another room and pray for him.
You know, you didn't want to live like this, and I was getting really discouraged. I broke down several times. I just didn't know what to do. I just couldn't believe it was happening.
He began researching transplant options and became even more discouraged.
The success rate on transplants was somewhere around 60%, and there's a lot of guys that get them and they fail and they have to do it again, and you have to take anti-rejection drugs, so you can't be out in the sunlight, and there's just so many, it's just like you wouldn't have a normal life. It's really hard. I was at a loss. I just didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, my normal life is gone. It's hard.
As Jerry prayed for an answer, he remembered a story from the book of Daniel, where God's servants refused the king's food and only ate raw vegetables and drank water.
All of a sudden, it kept going over and over and over in my mind. I think God gave it to me, vegetables to eat and water to drink. I said, surely it couldn't be that simple. So I told my doctors, I'm gonna go on a vegetables and water diet. And they said, oh, that's ridiculous. You won't get your protein. It has no bearing on you whatsoever. I said, okay, but I'm gonna do it.
I was nervous because I'm like, well, you need to follow what the doctors say, you know. I mean, they gave us tons of brochures and literature on here's the things you should eat, here's the things you shouldn't eat for kidneys. And so I was nervous, like, are you sure this is the right thing to do? Because, like, you kind of always think you should listen to doctors and what they know. But then he was just adamant about listening to God and His Word.
For 100 days, Jerry drastically changed his diet.
I started on the vegetables and water diet, all raw, all organic, and water. Nothing else. No bread, no meat, no cheese, nothing. And slowly, my numbers started getting better. He said, well, a little bit of improvement this week. I said, okay, so I stayed on it, and it kept getting better and better. It wasn't fast, but it was better and better every time I went. I mean, it was just a mundane routine. Tried not to think about it because I kept getting better and better and better and better. So I was trying to reach a goal.
How he could do something and be so disciplined for 100 days to do something like that, but he just felt like his life was at stake, and that's what he had to do to get better.
It took 100 days for me to get there, but at the end of 100 days, I had normal function. And they wouldn't accept it, and the nurse even told me, said, I think we must have misdiagnosed you.
Jerry and Cheryl know that it was God who gave him the path to healing and the strength to walk it out.
It's easy to say Jesus is all you need, but it's different when Jesus is all you got. He gave me a second chance. And looking back, it's such a simple thing. It just takes discipline. I kept telling myself I'm on a deserted island and all I got is vegetables and water to eat, so you survive until someone rescues you.
After the 100-day diet inspired by the book of Daniel, Jerry was successfully removed from dialysis. His kidney function has been normal for more than 7 years.
So the first thing he said he wanted to do was go out to Burger King and get a Whopper. I'm like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. You might get sick. But he did, and that's okay. But he got right back onto his fruits and vegetables after that.
You don't know how wonderful status quo is till you don't have it. Now I got status quo.
We're so thankful to the Lord for what he did and how he blessed us and just gave him a new life and his life back.
I mean, just looking back, I just can't believe it. It was such a journey. And I said, you just grab on those 6 words, vegetables to eat, water to drink. And I went from facing disaster to a normal life again.